Factorio is a beautiful game. You can use ratios and perfect designs, or you can place whatever you want wherever you want it, and see how far you can take it. In this run, I'm playing without space age. So how did I get there? In the background you see my starter setup for red and green signs. I'm placing it near the water, so I'm forced into spaghetti. Here is the oil train. I'm playing on a world with a lot of water, and I'm restricting myself to play without landfill. Finding an oil patch that was reachable without landfill or elevated rails was a bit of a challenge, especially because the increased water also overrode most patches. I will show the entire map later, but for now I hope you enjoy the rail routing. With oil comes all the usual oil goodies like red circuits and blue signs, which I'm routing through my base like such. Purple and yellow signs will also end up using this belt. I'm also routing the engines to the blue signs in a similar way. So here's the rest of the horse. Yes, I actually forgot to press record for the entirety of the rest of the run. I made the other signs in a similar way, and here we are, around the time of the first rocket launch. Let's take in this base one step at a time. Most of the production is in this area. I wanted to play without landfill and with limited elevated rails. Here's the base from a minimap. Most of the rails, both in and outside of my base, are bidirectional. I've added some bypasses for slightly more train throughput, and I'm going to experiment a bit more with one-directional sections later. I haven't had a deadlock in this base. Most outposts have some laser turrets near them and are full of efficiency modules to keep pollution down. Fortunately, the water settings allow for very natural choke points, so defenses were a breeze. The oil outpost was originally self-powered. In the end, I ended up with a global electric network, so that wasn't that useful anymore. Outpost trains go into the main base. My train stations all have a limit of 1 and are hooked up and activated if the chest or tank get too low. A base cannot survive off of train stations alone. So here's some perfectly ratioed bed circuits, mostly from raw resources. Besides the usual belt routing, it uses some neat tricks. A mixed copper ore and copper plate belt that never jams. It had a bit of startup lag, so I've added this long-handed pusher design that places some ore closer to the furnaces. The top circuit belt uses a sushi belt for wires and plastic. Running a belt into an underground belt like this allows for easy filtering. Most importantly, I added GG noobs, because it's never not fun. A base cannot be spaghetti without leaching of already built belts. So next to the circuits I made all the other oil products. There's sulfuric acid and blue circuits at the top, and this drained all my petroleum, so I added some oil processing to the south. There's also the rocket fuel build and another plastic build. To the west is a solar island. I always like solar fields, and you see some remnants of the tileable design. I've quickly abandoned that idea in this base. Instead of solar, I've decided to build nuclear power. You mine uranium and make fuel cells. That's it. For the rocket silo you have two choices really. Are you making it in the middle of your base or on an island somewhere? It's important that that island is somewhere to the south, so the rocket flies through your base. I've decided on a separate island supplied by one train carrying all the materials. Fun fact, if part of your train is on the ground, your inserters can interact with it. Ignore the satellite and rocket science inserters. Those are habits from a bygone era. Instead, rocket science falls from the heavens into a cargo landing pad. After adding some iron, copper, steel and green circuits, the base is capable of sustaining around 40 SPM. Let's zoom in on those last additions. One red belt of iron ore becomes one red belt of iron plates. Most of this goes to green circuits, which is also fed by this copper plate train which serves as input and output. If the train ever leaves, there's also an underground belt sideloading the copper, so throughput is still there. Overflow copper and iron plates go into stations, and overflow iron becomes steel. I'm not using these trains yet, but I've made some room for expansion. Speaking of unused trains, remember that plastic train? And here, my LDS build leaches the plastic from the very first oil build I made. Let's do a base review, while trainsaver shows some more trains. Since it's my base, I'm pretty biased. Good points are that the base uses a mix of normal builds and spaghetti builds, while maintaining perfect or approximate ratios. It uses a mix of trains, belts and bots, which adds to the chaos. Some bad points are finding outposts running out of materials, and the base miners running out of materials. I think a lot of these can be fixed by some sort of infinite mining mode. Another downside is that I think the original island is just a bit too big. Some of the builds when I'm starting up are just stuff in a straight line. This is fine if used sparingly, but I much prefer the builds on the riverbeds. The rail throughput could be better. Some trains take a loop around the base because their station is in a weird spot. Because everything in this main loop is mostly one change signal, a lot of trains have to wait some time. This isn't a problem yet, but in the future I may decide on a one-way loop through the base or sections of the base. Or I'll just use a two-way highway. Still, I had a great time with this base and will probably expand upon this idea in the future. Whether that's by turning this into a mega base or doing it with an overall is to be decided. Thanks for watching.